What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler and today I'm reviewing the brand new Adidas Yeezy 500 in the blush colorway. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet and want to see more reviews just like this one. Also make sure to give me a follow on Instagram and on Twitter at @RealSethFowler. But with all that out of the way, let's get into it. Over the last couple months, Kanye and Adidas have made a pretty drastic switch when it comes to the design language of the Yeezy line. They've gone from the relatively futuristic and sleek Yeezy 350 V2 to a more dad shoe and bulky aesthetic. It's definitely a polarizing change and one that happened a little bit after the peak of the Yeezy line. I'd say when the Yeezy 350 V2 came out, that's when the line was pretty much at its peak. And don't get me wrong, Yeezys are still incredibly popular and still sell out like crazy, but because of a couple different factors like the increased availability of the sneakers and the fact that the hype has died down a little bit on the line, Yeezys just don't demand the same prices that they did on the resale market, and in many cases for a lot of people, they're not that sort of end-all be-all grail that they used to be. I'm sure some of you won't agree with my opinion on that, but I think over the last year or two, the evidence is kind of undeniable. So like I said before, I definitely think it's interesting that the design language of the line has taken a complete 180. I definitely think it's possible that they're trying to get ahead of this dad shoe trend and put Yeezy back in the forefront of design, but whether that approach works or not, we'll just have to wait and see. So a few months ago, we got the very first bulky dad shoe style Yeezy, which was met with a lot of criticism. I like the shoe and I've always liked it. You can watch some of my videos from like 8 months ago, back when I first pre-ordered the sneaker. For me, it's always been that interesting ugly duckling that I just couldn't take my eyes off of. And now, continuing in that trend, we've got a brand new silhouette from Adidas and Kanye, the Adidas Yeezy 500 in the blush colorway. Unlike the Yeezy 700, I really didn't like this shoe when I first saw it, and until I actually got the sneaker in hand, it wasn't a shoe that I'd even really consider wearing. But unfortunately for me and my wallet, I think now that I'm actually holding the shoe, my opinions have changed a little bit. So jumping right into the sneaker, on the toe we've got this premium long suede panel. I say premium because the quality of the suede that they used is actually pretty impressive. It feels very soft and plush to the touch, and it also looks really good, which I appreciate. The one thing I will say though, and this not only goes for the suede panel but pretty much the entire shoe, is that this sort of like flesh tone blush color that they're using is a little off-putting for me. It's really not a color that I like or that I'd even really know how to wear. Continuing up on the toe, you get to these two thin leather strips. These strips actually run all the way up the shoe on the eyelets of the sneaker. Just below those leather strips, you've got this really wide tan mesh. This mesh continues all the way around the sneaker and sort of pops out between different leather dividers. They almost look like little puffy pillows popping out of the side of the shoe, and this is probably my least favorite part of the sneaker. I really don't like wide mesh on shoes, and I just really don't like these sort of rounded organic compartments that the mesh is in. It just looks weird. Like the entire shoe kind of reminds me of a bug or like an insect, and I just can't get over that. Continuing up the shoe, you have these oval suede panels with holes for the laces. Again, it kind of has that bug-like look to it, which I just don't like, but the material is nice, so I guess I can get over it. You've got tan or blush oval laces running through the eyelets to match with the rest of the sneaker. The tongue is covered in this slightly tighter knit mesh, and then you've also got the synthetic leather panel that creates almost a figure 8 shape on top of it. And then a kind of interesting detail is around the top of the tongue on the edges, you've got actually a pressed pattern, and I'm not sure why they did that because it's not visible from really anywhere unless you get up close to the shoe. It's just like these two lines on the tongue, and I just don't get it. Inside the shoe, you've got this plush tan sock liner. It is a bulky shoe, so you can definitely feel the padding, which in some cases is very comfortable, but other times it does get very hot. Rounding off the inside of the shoe, you've got this tan Yeezy branded Ortholite insole. This is actually the first time I think they've used an Ortholite insole on a Yeezy, or at least an Ortholite branded insole. If you look at the back of it, you can see these different colored panels that have slightly different densities. What's interesting is the yellow forefoot and heel pads feel slightly more dense and slightly stiffer than the green areas of the insole. I'm not sure why that is, because you'd think that these areas should be softer, but who knows? I've got to be honest though, I've worn the shoe with and without the insole, and I just haven't noticed a difference really either way. As for fit, the Yeezy 500 does seem to fit true to size. I have pretty narrow feet, so if you have wider feet, you might want to go up half a size, but honestly, for most people, I think you should be fine going true to size. Continuing back on the shoe, around the base of the upper, you've got this thin rubber panel for durability. In between the rubber panel and the mesh, you've also got this nubuck strip, also in blush tan. The top of the nubuck strip is actually rounded off by a thin piece of 3M piping. Moving farther back on the shoe towards the heel, you've got another strip of long suede. And then finally moving to the back of the shoe, you've got another nubuck panel in sort of a crown shape. And then on top of that, you've got another long suede panel in the same shape. Continuing down the shoe, you get to one of the biggest differences between the Yeezy 500 and any of the previous Yeezys, and that's the midsole cushion setup. Most Yeezys in the past have utilized boost cushioning, but this time around it looks like they're going for more of a budget model with this Adidas cushion. It's soft, and it's actually softer than I expected, but it's definitely not as comfortable as Boost. I guess the closest thing I could compare it to might be Bounce, and it's definitely not an uncomfortable cushion, but it just doesn't feel as cloud-like as Boost does. Also, the shape of the midsole is kind of interesting. You've got these sort of bumps or like peaks, and these bumps have sort of this warped 3D grid on them, which I actually didn't like at first, but now that I'm seeing it in person, kind of looks cool. The midsole is just definitely a weird shape. I don't dislike it, but it's not my favorite. Of course, as I mentioned before, you've got the Adidas branding on the lateral side, and then on the medial side, you've got the Adidas 3 stripes logo. Finally, moving to the bottom of the shoe, you've got this crazy outsole pattern. It's got this super trippy look, which is definitely out there and definitely different. It almost has like a hypnotic effect to it, which I don't know if I like. As you could already tell, the rubber in the outsole comes in this blush tan that covers the rest of the shoe. And to be honest, I'm pretty impressed that they're able to keep the same sort of shade and tone of color all the way across the shoe. A lot of times when you're working with different materials like rubbers and leathers and suedes, it can be really difficult to get each material to have the same color just because they're so different. And I can definitely say that Adidas and Kanye nailed the monochromatic look on this shoe. Overall, the Yeezy 500 Blush is not a bad shoe, but it's not my favorite. For $200, it's one of the less expensive Yeezys, I guess. However, the original 350 was $200 as well, and it came with Boost. So the fact that they're using Adidas instead of Boost, in my opinion, is kind of disappointing. Comfort-wise, it's really not bad. I would say it's a pretty comfortable shoe. But like I said before, there isn't a lot of airflow in the shoe, so it will get hot the longer you wear it. If you're looking to grab a pair of the Yeezy 500s in the blush colorway, you shouldn't have too hard of a time finding them. It seems like they were relatively widely released, and the resale right now is kind of non-existent, so if you're trying to grab a pair, I'd probably grab it sooner than later. Now that we've got the review out of the way, let's put these guys on feet and see how they look. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Yeezy 500 Blush and whether you're planning to pick up a pair or already have picked up a pair, or if you even like the sneaker. So make sure to leave those comments in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to give the video a big thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.